Number 5, coming from one of the more obscure albums that the band has ever done, What's the Deal? From Obscured by Clouds. And I'm very saddened that this album doesn't get the recognition that it deserves because it's a beautiful album in its own right. It's one of those first stepping stones that the band really focused in on their musical writing, the preparation for the songs, instead of just putting down whatever they've been jamming to since then. I think it just gets overshadowed because the predecessing album that came out was Metal. The album that followed it up was Dark Side of the Moon, so of course it's going to get overlooked. Musically, it isn't quite as on that same notch as Metal or as Dark Side of the Moon was. So even though I'm a little disappointed that it doesn't get the respect that it deserves, I at least understand why it didn't. And even in interviews from the band about the album, you hear Roger saying that he wasn't very pleased with just how it turned out. It was a little bit sloppily handled in terms of the mixing. It was a little bit rushed just to get it out quicker. But with that, we still have one of the most beautiful songs that the band has ever done with What's the Deal? And we have one of the most beautiful songs that David Gilmour has ever written. And I love how acoustical this is. And it's almost a stark contrast to a lot of songs that the band has done. This song is just a very strapped down song. It's just the acoustic version. It's because of that I really enjoy it. It provides such a really interesting contrast to the rest of the band that it's really hard not to enjoy, just to kind of think, oh, that's a really interesting take on such a beautiful song. Gilmour has done these songs in the past with Adam Hartmother's Fat Old Son and on Metal. So this type of song isn't really necessarily all that new for the band, but again, it does provide that stark contrast of those very heavy atmospheric synthesized noises that we've had. But all that being said, it's a beautiful song and it provides hopefulness that I love with the band. And it really showcases Gilmour's personality and what he brings to the band.
So let me in from the cold, turn my land into gold. 'Cause there's a chill wind blowing in my soul, and I think I'm growing old.
Coming in for the final stretch, we have Echoes from Metal. This has been said to be the turning point for the band. This is when they really stopped jamming around and just experimenting all over the place and really started to hunker down and then experiment and then fine tune. And we find that especially with Echoes. With Echoes, we have that monster of a song, that staple progressive rock epic of that 23-minute long oomph. And I love this song. I actually quoted it countless times in my high school yearbook whenever I was signing it. Right in the middle of this track, it just kind of goes completely off the map to the point where it's just these echoey sounds. And I love just that experimentation. And again, it's that chaos with the resolution where it starts to build and starts to get momentum back. And then when you have that crescendo near the end of the album, it's a really good payoff of all that wandering around. And it's that you're being lost and you're finally finding the light. You're finding your way home. And that resolution of I'm back, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then you're reintroduced to the theme that we had at the beginning of the song. And it works very, very well. It works to the point where a lot of people have called this a masterpiece, and I would actually agree with that. And I love the fact that a lot of people actually know this track. When you go to talk to Pink Floyd fans, they know about it, and they'll talk to you. They'll say, oh yeah, that really long song that's on that album that came out before Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah, of course, I love that song. And just the playing style on that. I love that when you get into that middle piece, that middle track of this song, where it's just David Gilmour wailing on the guitar, you know, it brought me back to the Careful with That Axe, Eugene, without being quite as sharp. It's also kind of like you're in this dark cave and you're just seeing this light every once in a while, and it's blinding just for the stark contrast for it. So a very great track, one that I recommend. And let's just move on to the next one because I could talk forever about this.
Meet, and I am you, and what I see is me.
Number 3, Shine On You Crazy Diamond from Wish You Were Here. the song that was kind of an ode to Syd Barrett, one of the founding members of the band that really only put out 1.5 albums. This song for me was really what hooked me into Pink Floyd. You know, it really took its time, and I remember Steven Wilson talking about this song opening Wish You Were Here. And he said, you know, that 2-minute of build-up where it's just the atmosphere, it's just the synthesizer, and it's a very, very subtle electric guitar, that was very ballsy. That was very brave of the band to do, especially after the critical success of Dark Side of the Moon. You know, they didn't waver away from their roots just based on their success. They reached success with Dark Side of the Moon, and it was very easy for them just to reproduce Dark Side of the Moon, but instead they said no. Now that we're here, we want to write about it. We want to really give you our take of what this success means, and unfortunately what the success has done to our other members. And so it's really a letter to Syd Barrett. This whole album is a letter to Syd Barrett. It's so beautiful in that emotion that they're able to capture. They're really able to capture that joy of making it to the top, of being a success, but also contrasting it with that regret of leaving those behind and those who didn't follow with them. And so it's that, yeah, we're here, but we really wish our buddy was here with us, but he's just going to shine on because that is what he does.
Like black holes in the sky, shine on, you crazy diamond. You were caught in the crossfire of childhood stardom.
Number 2, coming from arguably the most critically successful album from the group, Brain Damage / ECLIPSE from Dark Side of the Moon. And I'm cheating just a hair here because a lot of people pair these two songs together even though they're two separate songs. We have Brain Damage and we have ECLIPSE, the finale of Dark Side of the Moon. And really, Brain Damage is such an ingenious song. It's a great commentary of just everyday life. The lyrics of the song alone, I'm not a big fan of lyrics in a song. It's not really what makes or breaks a song. Like, if the lyrics are terrible, I'm not going to find it as detrimental to the song as the music. But when the lyrics are brilliant, it does add just that little bit of extra whipped cream on top. And so Brain Damage has that, where it's just that metaphors, you know, just that folded faces on the floor and every day the paper boy brings more. It's that beautiful, instead of just saying, oh yeah, the newspaper is here, you know, it's that presentation of the song. Overall, there's just something about this song, and I'm pretty sure like the mass populace will agree, there's just something about this song that moves you. And especially with the ending of ECLIPSE, it's the perfect summarization of the album as a whole when you're talking about life. It's really hard to describe the emotions that are elicited through this. The singing isn't overly that passionate. Like, there's a lot of other songs on this album that are very, very passionate, but it's almost like that reflection. It's almost like the day is done and you're just reflecting on it. And that's where ECLIPSE really comes in. You're just reflecting on everything. And with David Gilmour's singing style on that, it blends perfectly with that emotion that the music is bringing. And it's almost a really great metaphor for the individual. The singer and the producer of the thought isn't quite as passionate as the music that's surrounding it. And so I guess that's a really great metaphor of life as a whole. You're living your life, and you might not be as passionate of life, but the life that's taking place around you, that is the real passion. And so you can dive really deep into these songs, and it's that revisiting of these songs that is just so delicious. Really, there's no other way to say that. It's a really great track, and I love every second of it.
It's not me. And if the cloud bursts, thunder in your ear. All that you touch and all that you see.
Okay, so coming down to number 1, I'm not going to do any more of those, honorable mentions because it would kind of defeat the purpose. So let's just dive right in. I'm sure if you've been following along and ticking off which albums I've been talking about, there's really not too many left for the number 1 spot. So this might come as a surprise for some of you, but if you also know my musical tastes, it's Not really that surprising at all. Let's go to Atom Heart Mother. And it's the title track, Atom Heart Mother. What is there to say about a 20-minute instrumental epic? It's the closest that we've gotten, at least from the early stages of progressive rock, that really incorporated that classical style of music. It's almost a Beethoven piece, if you think about it, where you have that introduction, you have that theme. And this is really why I love progressive rock. You have that theme, and it's introduced right at the beginning. And you're also presented with a number of different themes that will kind of string your way along this journey. But it's that meaty theme with the horns and the synthesizers and the guitars all blasting together to produce these sequences of notes where it's just that dun 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 dun. Each time you are revealed with this theme, it gets bigger and it gets louder and it gets more in your face to the final climax of the song. It gets so big that I'm surprised it is even able to sustain itself. Where this album has those big blasting moments, it's really those subtle moments, especially when you are first introduced to that theme and then it quiets down and all you have is a lonely violin that's playing another type of theme that will be reintroduced with a guitar later on. You've got David Gilmour just wailing away on his guitar, but very, very subtly, especially at that beginning piece. If you listen to those slower movements in this song, it is so beautiful. It might just be that contrast between those booming beats and that subtler movements, but for me, it's those subtle moments with just the violin and a little bit of synthesizers to add a little bit of atmosphere, and then we get more of that guitar work. That's really where this song shines through perfectly. Each time I listen to this, I literally have to stop what I'm doing and just take it all in, and it is a great trip, and it's a great blending of musical styles, of classical music, of psychedelic, trippy, acid rock music, of that experimentation. So really, it's Atom Heart Mother that really takes the stand. And whenever anybody asks me what my favorite Pink Floyd album is, I gotta say Atom Heart Mother without hesitation, just for the title track alone. It just moves you, and it takes you on such an amazing journey. And if you haven't listened to it already, I highly, highly recommend it. And that's really my list. What did you guys think? I know a lot of you are going to disagree with that, and I welcome it. Please let me know your own list down below of your top 10 Pink Floyd songs. Pink Floyd is one of those bands that deserves to be talked about, and I'm so glad that they get the recognition that they deserve because of that. I also want to hear from you guys. So what other top 10 should I cover? I always love doing them. It takes a little bit longer, but I always love doing them. Let me know, again, by commenting below, or even follow me on Twitter and let me know. I'm on there almost constantly, and so let me know through that. And that's about it. All right, notes out. It moves you. Oh no, my book. Yeah, it moves you just like that book.